Jeff McAlpine, aka Mr. Mac, and this is my second video series I've made on education. This is Teacher Personality Behavior Patterns Overview. So we're going to look at this thing called behavior styles and a growth mindset. So that's our first major tool we're going to take a look at that will help us create that beautiful classroom environment that we're all looking for. So the system that we're going to use, I'm not taking credit for at all. It's a system out of the Effectiveness Institute, which is based in Seattle, Washington. I can definitely not call myself a trainer on it. I don't work for the Effectiveness Institute. I've just used this for so many years to help train teachers. Okay, so we're starting with a little quiz here. So I'm going to show you 3 screens. And for each screen, you're going to look at the questions and you're going to pick one. So for example, looking at question 1, do you like harmony? Do you like to be very accurate? Do you have strong opinions, or are you very outgoing? Now, this is a forced choice assessment. And I realize, knowing behavior styles, that 2 of them are going to really appeal to you. Well, you got to pick one. Okay, so if one edges out the other, go ahead. If they're exactly equal, just, flip a coin. Okay, you got to pick one. So you would either pick the S for likes harmony, the A for very accurate, the M for strong opinions, and the P for very outgoing. Okay, and so to do that, what I would do is I would just get a little slip of paper, write S, A, M, P on it, because those are going to be the 4 choices for each one, and we'll go into what those are later. And then just put a tally mark by it. So for question 1, let's say you choose, I would probably choose A, very accurate. I like that one better. S is so close on this one though, but A is kind of more me. And so I would put one little tally mark next to A. Okay, then I'm going to go to question 2, question 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, by the time you're done, you're going to have 9 tally marks, some of them next to S, some next to A, some next to M, some next to P, or maybe not. Maybe they're all next to S, who knows? Okay, so pick one. I'm going to go ahead and give you just some silent moment to pause the screen so you can do this on your own. And then we'll go to the next questions. So go ahead. All right, going to go to the next slide. Okay, here we have questions 10 through 18. Same thing. Pick the one that best describes you. Go ahead and pause it now. Okay, you should have 18 tally marks now. Let's go to the last questions. And here we see we have questions 19 through 24. So go ahead and pause the video now and go ahead and make your little tally marks. And when you're done, you should have 24 tally marks, either next to A, M, P, or S, or a combination of. All right, next on your slip of paper, you're going to count up the tally marks next to A. And you can go ahead and write that as a number, count up the tally marks next to S, the ones next to M, the ones next to P, and write down those numbers. You will need those. And then we're going to create what's called your personality iceberg. All right, so your iceberg looks kind of like this. So right here I have this interesting graph that has an A section, an M, an S, and a P. So you would take your A, and what I recommend doing is maybe you could kind of copy and paste this or take print screen of this and print it out, or you could just roughly sketch it on a piece of paper. That's fine too. But if you had 14 tally marks next to A, that would be crazy. That's a lot. You would circle the 14. Okay, so that's where that dot would be, or you put a dot on 14. And then let's say you had 6 tally marks next to M. Well, you would put a dot on 6 next to M, and then same thing for P and S. And then connect the dots. Okay, and you end up with what's called your personality iceberg. Now the one on the right is an example, but that's actually my example. You can see I've got a lot in the A, a lot in the S, but a little bit less, very little in the P, and a little bit in the M. All right, and that's going to mean something. We'll talk about what it means. So go ahead and pause the video. Like I said, print screen this and print it out if you'd like, or you can just roughly sketch it to make your personality iceberg. So the Effectiveness Institute has this nice cartoon that they like to show. And so I'm going to start with that one. It just generally is a funny way to break down the difference between these behavior styles. So an analyzer, you notice they need lots of information, very much into details, very detail-oriented people. The manager, they're very much into efficiency, right, and getting things done and being in control. right? So that duck's saying, hey, this is the quickest way. You have your stabilizer. They're very much into relationships, right? And they're very much into other people and helping to serve other people. And so, that chicken's like, hey, this is what everyone else wanted, so I'll go with that. And then you have your persuader behavior. Hey, that was an awesome party. And, they're into people as well, but it's more about themselves and that how other people make them feel. Okay, so it's kind of the flip side to the stabilizer would be the persuader. But I love this iceberg analogy. At any one point, there's only one side that's our observable behavior. You can't show both at the same time. And everything else is sort of under the water. Right? It's part of their personality. They have it, but they're only showing you certain types of behaviors. And a lot of this is environmental, depending on the circumstances. So if you're very stressed out, you tend to show your most comfortable behaviors. And as a teacher, our job is going to be to rotate our iceberg on the fly as fast as possible when it's needed. We can't show all four at once, but we can rotate between those four as needed in a classroom. And my job is to help you get comfortable rotating between your different behaviors. Okay, so these behaviors can change depending on the circumstance, and a classroom is a really stressful place to be. And so in a classroom, especially our first year, we tend to retreat to our comfortable behaviors. We're going to take a look here at these four different types of behaviors, and we're going to pretend like we have a Miss A analyzer, a Mr. S stabilizer, a Miss M manager, and a Mr. P persuader. Keeping in mind this, I'm going to present these people as the polar extreme of behaviors. Even though I'm calling Miss A an analyzer, realize Miss A has all four of those behaviors inside her and she can rotate, right? But we're going to say Miss A is mostly comfortable with being an analyzer. Same thing, Mr. S is mostly comfortable with being a stabilizer. And so let's see what these teachers have to say. Because when you first start teaching, or you might even notice this now, there's so many different opinions on how a teacher should create a good classroom culture. What it looks like, how to get there, right? Those are totally different opinions from different people. You can go up to a group of people and one person will say, hey, you shouldn't be smiling, right? You got to be firm, consistent, firm, right? And then you go up to another person and say, God, I love on my kids, man. I love them. My kids love me. We got relationships, right? Don't listen to that person. We smile all the time. And so it gets really, really confusing. Okay, and so this is going to help us sort of sort between those behaviors and why they're there. So let's look at Miss A. So Miss A is more likely to say this: hey, I got a long list of procedures and tools you should use in your classroom. Like, here's 1,001 things to do. This teacher scripts out exactly what kids are going to do, and their lesson plans are like 10 pages long. You look in their classroom, they got 1,000 different things all over the place. Very organized, meticulously organized. Tons of tools and procedures and things in their classroom. So that's Miss A. So if you went up to Miss A, that's what she would say to you, like, hey, I've got these really cool tools I'm going to give you. Or you go up to teacher and they're Mr. S. Hey, you know what? The key to student behavior is getting to know the kids. Once I have a relationship with my students, I get to know them, everything's going to be great. My kids will love me, I will love them. We have to have that bond and that relationship. Okay, so that's Mr. S. Then we have Miss M. Okay, so Miss M is a force to be reckoned with. She raises her voice, firm directions, they do exactly what she wants them to do. And this is the teacher that will normally say things like, hey, I'm not going to smile until April, right? I'm not going to smile. They're going to do what I asked them to do. They're going to do it now, okay? And that's where they thrive. And then finally you have Mr. P, and he says this: hey, dude, it's about fun and engagement, man. It's fun stuff. If I smile, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to make my lessons interesting. The kids are going to love me. They're going to laugh. We're going to have a good time, and everything will be fine. So we got these four behavior styles. We have these four people, and these four pieces of advice that seem very contradictory to each other. And that's why it's so difficult to, these classroom culture video series or books or anything you look at, they're all offering you usually that perspective, right? And so we need to offer all perspectives, because here's the problem. You go into Miss A's classroom, right? You go into Miss A's classroom and, well, it's kind of dry. It's stuffy, it's boring. Miss A is very cold, right? It's about structure for Miss A, not about people. Miss A isn't very assertive either, even though she has these tons of different things that kids need to do. Like, here's the 18 different steps coming into my classroom. Yes, I actually have 18 steps. Sorry, I am Miss A. But Miss A can't get the kids to do it because she's not going to confront them when they're not doing it, because that M part is missing, right? So Miss A is going to have all sorts of trouble. And then we have Mr. S. Well, Mr. S I feel for. About 70% of teachers in my, assessing teachers throughout the years tend to have stabilizer as their top 2 behaviors. Because a lot of people get into teaching because they love kids, right? They love on them. And the problem is, Mr. S gets walked all over and manipulated. Kids take over the classroom sometimes. They can be too nice. They can lack a backbone. And the problem with Mr. S is Mr. S takes it personally because they run on emotion. And so a lot of teachers end up leaving the classroom because they take it personally when their kids misbehave. Then we have Miss M. Okay, Miss M usually thrives the first couple of weeks of school. Okay, because they're firm. They're very firm and they're consistent. So kids will do what they ask. But the problem is they tend to be labeled the mean teacher after a while, right? Because they don't tend to give up that control. Now, another thing about Miss M is this is the teacher you might see on YouTube for saying something really dumb in a classroom. Because Miss M thrives on efficient, quick decisions. And sometimes when a kid is misbehaving over and over again, they don't think through the thing they're going to say to the kid. So Miss M might be the person that calls a kid dumb or says, "What is wrong with you?" My first year of teaching, I was trying to develop my manager behavior and I was not very good at it. My 8th graders were messing around and I told them to shut the F up. Really bad decision. Horrible decision that has haunted me for years. I was very lucky that nobody told on me. I didn't get in trouble. I went straight to my administrator. It's like, "Oh my gosh, I just said this. What is going to go? What's going to happen to me?" And they said, "Let's just wait and see." And weirdly, my kids respected me more. Don't ever do that, by the way. It's a horrible idea. I spent weeks just like, why did I say that? And it's because I wasn't comfortable with my manager behavior, and so I didn't think, and I said something really dumb out loud. So they tend to make quick decisions and they don't think about the impact of those decisions. And they tend to get called nasty names behind their back. Sometimes they can be hard to work with in a teacher team because they're very much into, let's just get it done and let's go. And that doesn't work for thriving teams. And then finally, Mr. P's got his blind spots as well. Fun lessons, they have their limit. This teacher gets good control when they have their fun lesson and kids are laughing. But the problem is not everything in a classroom can be fun and exciting and entertaining. And so what happens is there's boring parts of the lesson and the kids just kind of ignore that. Sometimes the teacher just skips over that part, the learning part. And what ends up happening over time is students start to misbehave. And the persuader teacher tends to not address that behavior at all. They're the person where you talk to where they're like, we just wing it. No, I don't have any systems in place, right? I don't need rules. My teacher said rules. I hated those rules. I'm just a happy-go-lucky person in my classroom, and kids just do what I want, right? Well, most of the time when someone's saying that, kids don't actually do what they want. Most of the times that I see it. They have a lack of structure. Students hide, and they start to walk all over the teacher and all over the class. And so you can only be Mr. P for so long. It takes, you got to ramp up fun, man, because today's fun is tomorrow's boring activity. Right? And eventually it becomes exhausting. And so that's the downfall of Mr. P. We have to be comfortable with all 4 different behavior styles. We want to be master teachers, right? Some of our kids are 2-3 years behind. Some of them come from environments that I would describe to you that would just make you just cry, right? I mean, some of our kids, they have a rough go of it. And so we can't afford to just be good teachers. We have to be excellent teachers. We have to be like the best teacher they've ever had in their entire life sort of teachers. We got to be life-changing teachers. We can't afford to just be good enough. And so all 4 of these behaviors are required. We have to be comfortable with them. We have to be able to rotate freely in a classroom. And it's really hard to do at first, really hard to do. But I'm going to teach you some of the tricks and techniques to get there, okay? And so I'm going to take Miss A, and I'm going to call Miss A the tools teacher. I'm going to take Mr. S and call him the relationships teacher. And Miss M and call that the assertiveness teacher. And Mr. P and call that the engagement teacher. And we have to be comfortable being Mr. or Miss ASMP. tools, engagement, assertiveness, and relationships. Here's the thing. If we feel uncomfortable showing the behaviors, we're going to give up on necessary behaviors. But if we give up on necessary teacher behaviors, here's what happens. We overcompensate with our strengths. When kids start to mess around, the Miss M's, they go from being assertive to being mean. The analyzers, they go from, oh, here's all the details and all the stuff we're going to do, to overthinking everything, right? And eventually their brains blow up. They can't handle it anymore. And the stabilizers, right? They end up in the corner crying. And also, if you're missing vital behaviors, students need them. Students need you to be able to be a great engager. They need you to have tools. They need you to be assertive, right? And they need you to form relationships. If you don't have one of those things, you're missing out on what you could really do to help kids. And so if we utilize all 4 of the behaviors, even though we feel uncomfortable using some, and we persist, right? The problem is we have these habits of behavior and we're stuck in them, and it's really hard for us to be able to rotate our icebergs to different behaviors. And so we got to practice it, right? And I'll show you some different ways to practice them. And once you develop these as habits, then you can use them in your classroom freely. We utilize our strengths effectively, but we have to practice less comfortable behaviors, and so they become habits. In conclusion of this whole kind of beginning to our behavior styles journey, I know many of you have heard of Carol Dweck. Was an amazing person. I've read all of her books, and she was all about growth mindset. So if you ever heard growth mindset, that's from the brain of Carol Dweck. And the thing is, a lot of people misunderstand growth mindset. And Carol Dweck's book, she divided growth mindset into 2 different parts: an intellectual growth mindset and a personality growth mindset. Most people have an intellectual growth mindset, right? Oh, I can learn things, I can read books, I can, but very few people tend to have a personality growth mindset. So they say, hey, I'm an introvert, or hey, I'm an extrovert. They don't say, I'm an introvert learning to be comfortable with my extrovert behaviors, right? So a lot of people are stuck thinking, this is my personality, these are my behaviors, this is who I am, and this is just who I am. I'm sorry, I'm not going to change. Or a lot of people think that they can't change. But very, very powerful people have what's called a personality growth mindset, rather than a fixed mindset. Okay, this is who I am now, my behaviors are like this, and now I'm going to develop my different behaviors and become more comfortable with them. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to, whatever your blind spot was, whatever your least comfortable behavior was, we're going to develop that one. Okay? That's really important for us. And so, as we go through this series, I'm not going to leave behavior styles behind. Okay? We're going to stick with it the whole time. We're going to learn about some analyzer behaviors, and those are the tools teachers. We'll dig into what makes manager behavior, assertiveness teachers so powerful in a classroom. We're going to learn to be stabilizers and love on kids. If you're that manager, like Jaime Escalante, that's the picture of that dude. He was very manager-esque in his classroom. You're going to learn this, I'm going to make you do it, right? But then, man, could he love on kids, right? And so working on stabilizer relationship techniques and tools will be great for that too. And then finally, I've got Bill Nye down there. We got to be that engaging teacher too. So we'll work on all 4 of those different behavior styles. All right. Next time we'll expand more on this. I hope you got something from this. At least now you have your personality profile. Feel free to send me a message if you'd like me to. I can kind of make you an official portfolio profile that has your iceberg on it and a little breakdown of that. Just send me an email with your behavior styles and the numbers. So just write A12, P6. Give me all 4 of those and I'll send you a profile out. Otherwise, have an excellent day, an excellent time teaching online at school, and I will talk to you next time. Have a great day.